and then let's start.
Sure.
So, how are things with you, Khyati?
Good, 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 good. I'm really, really looking forward to the Sunday tomorrow.
Oh,
I It has been a long week.
much needed break.
Yes, Sunday will be very, very appreciated. How
I
about
think
you?
So,
Mhm.
yes, we are also. I'm also looking forward to Sunday and seeing how it pans out. But yeah, I do need a little break to
Yeah,
process the week, and that's the whole point. When you have a 6 days working schedule, you only get one day, and you have to like fit in so many things you want to do, and then you're like, oh, it's almost Monday.
yeah, yeah. It's not enough.
the day goes by, we don't even know. Like
Yeah,
it was,
and then there's laundry and whatnot too.
yeah. And
How was your day today? What did you do?
It was good. Like today, we had a what do you say roundtable meeting with a few doctors, and they had like a guest lecturer come in. And it was nice. It was nice to know where doctors stand at times in terms of genetic knowledge. Because towards the end of the talk, I literally asked the speaker that do doctors never encounter genetic disorders, or do they not encounter like theoretical genetics? Because it was like a group of moderate age pediatrician who are like maybe you can call them millennials in this language, and they had questions which were like, oh, when do I order triplet repeat? When do I order NGS? And at times the doubts were so what do you say coming from very normal people also we have similar doubts, and I was like, wait, your doctors are going to order the test, and there's so much lack of awareness. I was like, oh, there is so much work to do, so much of awareness to do. But it
Yeah.
was nice to see that at least they were very honest and they're asking questions, so we see things are moving somewhere. And I hope this continues because genomics is going to take over and a lot of things coming up, so hopefully they we reach there soon.
Hmm. Yeah.
I
How's
think
your
you
day?
guys are doing wonderful job to put an awareness out there. So yeah, kudos to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and to really pull the doctors onto a round table, that's already, uh,
Half battle
that's,
won.
yeah,
uh, is very I think, but now they are very interested in genetics because I think one of the reason that I think doctors talk about genetics is because patients come in and they have read about it somewhere. They're like, oh, I read this thing, this is happening, what about that, tell me about it, and then like, oh, so I think at times it's patient also is being their own advocate, and that's the best thing you can do.
I think people are just very curious to know what is going on as well. So
yeah,
it sometimes backfires us, but most of the time I think it's good that they're asking questions.
yeah. No, I think patients have become really educated and forthcoming as well.
Yeah.
Initially, there was a lot of training involved in genetic counseling where they were teaching how you can help patients accept their situation. A lot of that is still applied, but so many times people just read and come so much. They're already, halfway there, and they don't need as much technical knowledge and mental support and things like that to accept and grasp that this is how they're in the situation. So, progress.
True. It feels very nice, when they ask questions because you also know that what is expected from this session,
Mm.
and it actually becomes like a very beneficial session because I remember there was this one case wherein the patient was a PhD in genetics, and we were like, okay, the patient might know stuff like basic genetics, but I kid you not, we had to go over the report 5 times to make her understand the pathogenic report. That okay, this is pathogen, this is what is going to cause, and that is when she told that I'm a PhD genetics. I know this thing. It is just that I'm not able to. process it and accept it.
Uh,
And that's the time when we're like, okay, we are here. Even if you need it a sixth time, we're here. But process it. And that's how sometimes they need that, okay, this is what is wrong and I need to hear it. So yeah, they at times when they do something like this, it clears our bias that okay, no matter what your background is, this is going to be there, and we're going to give you the entire information, and we're going to see what you want the most out of this.
very, very interesting.
So I think we'll start.
He's lagging, right?
A little bit, yeah, and I think
Yeah.
we lost him
Yeah.
virtually.
I guess.
Is this okay now?
Yes, we
But
can hear you.
yeah, we can hear you. We can't see you.
I don't know, some weird issue, but yeah, yeah. I hope the voice is clear.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we
Great.
can see you.
Okay, so I think we'll start.
Okay.
So welcome, Khyati, to the fourth episode of Between the Introns. And on behalf of the Indian Genetic Counseling Journal Club, I welcome you and I thank you for taking out time from your busy schedule and agreeing to do this with us. I'm sure a lot of students, a lot of practicing genetic counselors, a lot of people who want to get into this field are going to benefit from this recording and this today's episode because this question is going around like what is genetic counseling and how we can pursue it in India. So we're really thankful that you agreed to do this, and I hope you have a good time interacting with us. I would like to welcome Shraddha, our member, to introduce you formally and let our audience know about what all amazing things you have done.
Hi,
Over to you.
Kathy. Good evening. So, just a small summary of what Khyati has done and is doing. Khyati was a research trainee at Howard Medical College, and currently she's been studying genetic counseling at Kasturba Medical College, Manipal. She has also given her BGCI entrance examination for level 1 genetic counseling, and Khyati has published many genetics related papers and is also working on them. Over to you, Mayuresh.
Yes. Thank you for that introduction. And our audience,
I think we lost. Yeah, I think we lost him again. Just,
Yeah. Is he also recording the session?
no, it's just me recording the session.
Okay.
I
I
think
think
he
that
has
would
some internet problems, maybe.
probably.
sorry for the internet issue. I think I'll keep my video for some time and see if it gets better. So, to coming back to the question, how did you discover genetic counseling, and what motivated you to take up genetic counseling academically or pursue it academically?
I would love to give a very brief answer of this. Unfortunately, a whole lot of my family is involved in getting me to this decision. So, as a child, I was introduced to botany and plant culturing and growing plants, gardening in general by my grandfather. And this interest was captured by my biology teacher in grade 10. And she actually, like, there are these CBSE regional exhibitions and things like that where you register and go from your school. So, my biology teacher encouraged me to do a project on hybridization of hibiscus plants. So, you take a white hibiscus flower and a red one, and then you make a pink one. And I was completely blown away by this very simple experiment because we did it in school, and of course, it was for a purpose, but the learning and the thrill that I got from just witnessing this incredibly natural marvel, I wanted to pursue it. So that pushed me on to taking genetics in my bachelor's. And I think anyone who's taken genetics besides biotechnology, there are very few cohort from all over India. And I don't know if there are many programs that even offer genetic engineering anymore. So I did my BTech in genetic engineering, and we had a semester of classes on genetic counseling. That is when I really understood that, okay, research is interesting, but I'm really inclined towards interacting with patients, and the whole mindset that you require to be, um, you have a lot of power with you as a genetic counselor. There's patient lives and things that you need to calculate, and a lot of things depend on you. And all of these shiny things, along with the challenges that I learned about in genetic counseling, I was so sure even before I graduated from my bachelor's that this is exactly what I wanted to do. And I pursued the same by doing an internship, a 6 to 7 month internship. And that really locked things in for me. I was completely immersed in that internship program. I was very thrilled to go to work every day and learn every day. And I think that became a very clear indication of this is what I want to do. So that's what brought me to studying this a bit more in my master's course as well. I hope that answers.
That definitely sounds very interesting. You had a complete journey, like starting from plant genetics, like where Mendel also started the genetics journey, I think.
Yeah, what were the odds?
Yes. And then you're discovering genetic counseling. It's very interesting because you said you did genetic engineering, and which is like a BTech degree, and you having a semester of genetic counseling speaks about the course being very interdisciplinary, because patient interaction in a genetic engineering setup very interesting, at least for a country like India where we have very rigid walls like science, commerce, arts. If you want to have patient interaction, you become a doctor or you become a paramedic, and interdisciplinary scope is very skewed, I think, in the country. But that's very interesting, and that really defines that. Like you said, the important point would be like you loving to go to your job daily and your job being an interesting thing for you. It
Yeah.
is. And that brings me to the next part. So you went to Harvard to pursue, I think you were doing a research job over there. And how did that job contribute to you getting closer to this path of genetic counseling? And I think from a previous interaction, we know that you had applied also to GC schools in the US. So how was that experience for you?
So, hmm. Okay, so me applying to Harvard, actually, that was a part of, I wanted it and I was hoping for it to be a part of my eighth semester project, or the bachelor's thesis, as people call it. But because it was the time of COVID and things like that, a couple of things such as my visa and all of that was a little delayed. It took a bit longer than usual. And so I ended up, which was great for me because I ended up doing an internship in genetic counseling instead of this course in India. And I was able to do a longer period of research at Harvard because I had completed my bachelor's and then I was going there. So my work over there involved microbiology research. It involved a lot of studying bacteria, and we were making a project out there. Um, so I was there for about 10 months, and I was able to interact with a few genetic counselors there. Some of them were students, some of them were practicing, and that gave me a good idea of how genetic counseling happens in the US setting. It is very, very different in terms of practice from India because I think the very grain of the way you speak to your client changes. In US, they are very focused on the counseling part of genetic counseling. Genetics does play a very central role in it, but a lot of the emphasis comes onto the counseling part as well. So when they say that we are going to help you manage your condition well, they mean that any cardiology, pediatrician, uh, gynecology, endocrinology referral that is needed, they will help with that, but they will also help you with your mental health and things like that. In India, it is not as developed because of several constraints, I must say. One is the societal constraint, one is um, the time constraint for that matter as well. So, not deviating too much from the question, I because of my exposure to the research that was happening there, I was able to interact with a few genetic counselors, and that gave me encouragement to apply for US colleges as well. So, coming to the second part of your questions, um, I did apply to the US in the hope of definitely getting selected and practicing there. But it is a very, very difficult network to crack. And I say that because the eligibility over there is a bit more strict, considering that the field has been in the country for almost double or triple the number of years that it has been in India. So the students that the expectations that they have from applicants is much, much higher, and the competition is really high as well because as opposed to India, in US a genetic counselor's job is respected and venerated a lot more. So considering my pros and cons, evidently I did not get into a college in the US, but that whole journey taught me a lot more than I would have without having applied to US colleges. Number one, when they tell you to write your SOP and things like that, a personal statement, your resume, even, they compel you to think about your reason and find your voice, in the sense that you know how they say statement of purpose, you actually question yourself enough to find what your purpose is, why you like genetic counseling, why you see yourself practicing as a genetic counselor, and what made you fall in love with it. They don't want to know your accolades, they don't want to know how many papers you have published. They already know that. Actually, what they do want to know is this: what's in your heart and how well you can present it. So working on my SOP, working on my personal statement, working on my resume, a lot of the universities also have their individual questions. So it's university unique questions that they have, which is a part of their unique application process. Those questions compel you to think about yourself. And all in all, I think there are about 54 colleges in the US. Approximately each of them have 6 to 8 seats, and they all have a common process. So you have to apply individually to each of these colleges, But that happens through a common body, which is the National Matching Service. It is very confusing. Uh, so let's just say that there is a the root of the tree is this National Matching Service. The branches of the tree are the different colleges, and to pick a fruit from each of them, you have to apply to each of them. And finally, in the end, you don't get selected. Like, you get interview calls after you have gotten through your statement of purpose and resume, all of that. Then you get the interview call, and once the interview happens, a far more trickled down filtered list of students comes out. And then what happens is, suppose I am applying, if I have done my interview for 5 colleges but gotten selected in 3 colleges, I can rank my preference for the 3 colleges. So 1, 2, 3 for the colleges that I have gotten selected in. Now, these colleges themselves have chosen 6 students approximately each. So they will be ranking the students. Then there is a very nice matching system where they marry you with one college, and the rank that you have given to the college and the rank that the college has given you is taken into consideration. And finally, in I think about March, you match with the college. So it is a very, very hard, toiling process. And very briefly, if I am to provide my learnings or my suggestions, I would say that start early. Like, if you are applying for your master's, if your course is a 4 year course in bachelor's, start applying from your third year. Start, like, if you get 1 year of buffer, that's when you're going to be able to make mistakes, learn from your mistakes. Because I have made a lot of mistakes, and had I had another year, I would have probably wanted to, you know, work with them, cover them. But yeah, so learn, have a buffer year. Number two, reach out to people who are already in those universities, and that applies to people who are in Indian universities as well. You will get a good idea of the curriculum and the things that the university focuses on. Even in the US, few of the universities focus on research while others don't. So if that is a door that you want to keep open, then look out for those universities. Number three, uh, get in touch with someone from the university, as I said. But number three, also tell them to check your statement of purpose. They have been through the process, so definitely something worked out for them. So learn from, tell them to go through and peruse your documents as well. And number four, do a lot of volunteer work. Take interviews like these, because that shows that you have a history of interest, and it's not just a sudden spurt of, I want to do this. So do volunteering work, do a lot of um, like crisis management work, things like that, that you can do online, and not a lot of your life is disrupted. Like, you don't have to go to any place and do it. But if you want to go to an NGO or an NPO and work, that is also very welcomed by them. And yeah, I think these are a couple of pointers that people can keep in mind, and a general brief of the application process in the US.
Sounds like a complete roller coaster journey. And
It is.
the most genetic counseling, or I think the most genetic counselor part I could see in you was you giving different examples and analogies to explain difficult concepts. Because I think I can see that the national matching service system is quite, I won't say complicated, but it's very complex that it has. But this root stem analogy, it fits, and congratulations. I think I see that genetic counselor coming up. But yes, I think, like you said, the courses there, it sounds very wholesome journey for them, like to see what you reflect on, uh, what is at the heart, like you, why do you want to pursue that question, and what are the reason, how do you explore it. So I think in Indian colleges, we don't need a SOP, but yes, that is something different here. Uh, but I think, yeah, sure. As you said, there were a lot of reflections as you went through this journey, and you interacted with a lot of genetic counselors abroad. So that might have given you some kind of push or motivation to find that answers that are within you. Maybe very poetic, but yeah. Uh, so how was that transition? Like, you were already in a country where this is kind of established profession, where it is, like you said, it's very respected, and a lot of people, like, there is a whole thing that, okay, if you are getting a chance to go to the US, you might as well try there, and we have this whole thing culture here. So you decided to come back. How was that journey for you? What were kind of pointers you considered before making the decision to move back to India to pursue this degree?
Right. Okay. I'm just gathering all my thoughts. Yes, there were quite a few points I considered. Actually, you know how the saying goes that rejection is redirection. I think it was a very important redirection for me, considering that going forward in my life, I say that about 15 or 20 years from now, I want to be in India. I want to be closer to family, and I think that India is a great place to work and to grow old, even if this field that I want to pursue is quite in its nascent stages as of now. But a couple of things that I considered was, number one, as I said, if I am to treat and help Indian patients, then I must train with Indian patients. Um, Again, another point that I had previously mentioned was the very thing that you have to change the way you talk and the kind of questions that you ask, the way you approach a situation is very, very different in the US. Um, they focus a lot on uh, the way they talk and the way they present themselves in front of their client. It goes beyond doctor patient relationship, which happens here as well. But in a hospital setting in India, the patient load, please don't be surprised to know this, it's very high when it comes to genetic disorders. So a lot of people come from various specialties referred to genetics because it's only a referral based um, specialty. So it's a super specialty actually in India, and doctors always refer patients. Mostly, there are hardly any people who will walk in and say that I want a genetic counseling session to be there for me. But yeah, I think these were. So the first 2 points that come to my head are, number one, treating Indian patients, helping Indian patients, train with Indian patients. Really, the education in India is up to point, and they give you so much exposure in your journey of learning and exploring about this field in India with the master's programs and the certificate courses and things like that that they have here. Uh, that is one. Number two, your understanding, your rapport building, which is very, very important because trust, genuineness, these are very important qualities that a genetic counselor wants to inculcate in themselves and also wants to encourage and promote between the client. And by client, I mean patient. I just don't want to keep saying patient again and again. So, yeah. And number three, it is in the genetic counseling field is such a nascent field in India. So there is so much scope of, number one, research. There is so much scope of data validation. We still rely a lot on the data that is from the US population. And as we know, ethnicity and things like that, they do make a difference on the genetics of your body. So a statistic that is followed in US might not be the same that is followed in India. And so you can contribute to studying the population, running population study analysis, validating the data, and you would be contributing a lot to the genetic counseling field, even in just that capacity. Number five, you will be a pioneer in this field because we have about, say, approximately less than 250 genetic counselors all over the country. And even if each of these genetic counselors was placed in one hospital, it is still far less than what the country requires. There are a lot more diagnostic companies that are now coming up, and that only dilutes the population of genetic counselors that is far less than it should be. So every year, people are striving to promote this field, to spread awareness about this field, and you become a part of this. So you, um, again, there's just so much power when it comes to genetics because it's almost like your fortune telling, but backed up by science. So, you have your prenatal diagnosis, which means that you can diagnose a condition when the child is within the mother's womb. And I think that is just so powerful. Similarly, cancer, which is such a debilitating and such a difficult journey to go through for an individual, if you of course timely, if you do the test, if you are on surveillance, you can prevent it or you can be more prepared for it, and your planning of life changes accordingly. So the power of this field and the impact of this power that can have on the population, I thought that it was just so much more when you're contributing to the Indian population, where the population is so high, where the awareness is so low, and where people really need it a lot. And at the end of the day, when I see a smile on the family that I am catering to, there's nothing more satisfying than that. So, compared to the US, I think US programs are great. They're amazing. They make you very, very qualified to practice as a genetic counselor immediately out of your college. But Indian universities are not any less. Neither are Indian training programs. In case you've already done your masters and you want to undergo a training period, the programs are great, and you learn so much on the job as well. So these were a few points that I had considered, and at the time of my rejections, I think these were all they were all on my pros list, and my cons list to come back to India and study here was almost nothing. So yeah.
That's really, like, I think a lot to reflect for our audience as well, to right from like what potential Indian population has in terms of being there as a genetic counselor for that population. And it's not a very homogeneous population, it's a very heterogeneous population. Like, that we have so many different languages, people having very different perceptions. It's a very unique society, I would agree with that. And there is so much data that is yet to come out, and that puts us on the map on a genetic level, that, yes. And like you said, today in the clinic, we had a case where we had to kind of tell the doctor that unfortunately, the databases which we refer to are all Caucasian databases. The variants are majorly Caucasian. So if you find a VU as an Indian patient, it's not a surprise, because it's still, we are reaching there, we are not there. So it might be that this VUS is going to be a pathogenic variant, but that will only be when there is a lot of Indian data that comes out. It may be a VUS for Caucasian database or other database forever, but Indian database can make difference here. So that's very interesting that you found potential in this country. And like, a very interesting thing, like, if you want to work here, like, I don't think you just have a 5-year plan or 15, 20-year plan, and you said, and that's very good, very nice. But yeah, to if you want to cater this population, you need to learn with this population while you're getting trained. Very interesting point. So like, you had this whole reflection, like when you were moving back here. So even in India, like you said, there are quite, I think, 4 to 5 courses, and now I think 6 courses are coming up total, like two more courses to add. So how did you go through that process, like sieving through these universities? What did you have another pros and cons list for these universities?
Yes. So there are, I think there are 6 programs that are there.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a slide which have the master's courses enlisted. Would you like me to present that?
Yes, sure, go ahead.
Okay, that would be great. It would help me explain as well.
Yes, and people also have a nice reference.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. So these are the masters for genetic counseling in India. As I said, there are a total of 6 programs. I will go in no particular order. Number one is MSc in Human Genetics, Sri Ramchandra Institute of Higher Education and Research, which is in Chennai. And then there's a second course which is called Masters in Biomedical Sciences, Specialization in Genetic Counseling from VIT Vellore. Now, these are two very, very famous and very prestigious, esteemed colleges in Vellore and Chennai. Both of them have a higher focus on research part of things. So they do have a lot of education, the whole counseling part where they teach you empathy, breaking bad news, non-directive counseling, shared decision making. All of these are included, but a whole lot of how to run a PCR, what, like, there are different types of PCR, methylation specific, um, and triple repeat PCR, gap PCR. So they focus on that along with other things like MLPA, CMA, karyotyping, the basic tests. So both of them have quite a bit of emphasis on research. So this is something that I did not want personally. Having had a little bit of an experience in Harvard with research, I was even more sure that I want to focus just purely on genetic counseling and enhance my clinical skills. So that was more related to my knowledge of the disorders and uh, the how to read an x-ray or how to understand an ultrasound, things like that. So for that I wanted a hospital setting, and I wanted um, faculty to be doctors and to learn from those doctors, which brings me to number 3 and number 4 courses, which are masters in genetic counseling, both of them. One is at NIMS, which is Nizam's Institute of Medical Sciences in Hyderabad, and one is KMC Manipal. Although I am from Hyderabad, and NIMS, which is, as I said, Nizam's Institute of Medical Sciences, they have only 2 seats that are available, and they give preference to people who are a domicile of Hyderabad. So sorry, domicile of Telangana or Andhra Pradesh. Um, and another pro of this institute is that it has a lot of patient load. I think a lot of people from the um, eastern coast, southeastern coast of Hyderabad, of India, go to NIMS for consultation. So they have at least like 15 to 20 or more cases every day. So if you want that, if this is what you want, then this is a great place to be. But they have also taken students who are not from Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. If you are well deserving, they will definitely uh, take you in for their course. But one con that I did find in the course was that they don't have a proper curriculum. So any case that comes in the OPD is what you study. So it's the boundaries which are, a proper curriculum and things like that, that is not fully established in NIMS, but it's a very prestigious institute. Um, Lots of patients, great location as well, and Yeah, and the faculty members are doctors. It is a hospital setting. So if you want to go and explore other specialties like cardiology, gynecology, nephrology, things like that, a lot like these are the main ones where a lot of genetic cases come from. So you can do that as well. This brings me to number four, which is KMC Manipal. As I said, this is also a hospital setting with faculty members who are doctors. They have a very, very well established research lab, and it's also a diagnostic lab. So, basic tests that we do are done in house as well. The main reason I moved from Hyderabad to Manipal was because KMC has a proper curriculum, and the curriculum is very well defined. It covers everything that a genetic counselor must learn, and that too in 2 years period of time. And this is also preceded by a 3 month foundation course where you learn everything about the anatomy, biochemistry, and physiology of humans. And I think that is a very basic medical course that everyone should go through. So these are the pros that made me choose Kasturba Medical College. There are 6 seats in KMC. There is a written examination round followed by an interview round, and you have to clear both in order to pass the exam, uh, pass the exam and get the seat as well. And yeah, it's a wonderful place to be. Manipal is quite in the mountains, and there's a lot of places to travel around as well. So it's a good combination of everything. And I will come back to KMC and its pros later as well. But there are two recent courses that have been introduced. One is MSc in Genomic Counseling, quite unique title, which is in Manipal Hospital, Bangalore, and MSc in Genetic Counseling, which is by a very surprising. I mean, I've not heard of this university before, but now everyone knows about it and is talking about it because it's a university in Amritsar and it's SGRD, University of Health Sciences. So these are the 6 courses, and they all have their websites and applications that start around the same time. So you can go through their website, and they, I think some of them also have their curriculum enlisted. So if you would like to explore that, I think it would be very, very helpful for you. But coming back to why I chose KMC, uh, it's it's very, as I gave you, it was a list of pros that I chose this university, but um, once I got into the program, it is a highly immersive program. My faculty members, their faculty who taught them, their mentors, they have one important mantra, which is that you study every single day. You read something new every single day. And I think I am now very, very involved in that practice. Whether it is a simple article that I have read, whether it is some sort of debate that is going on. I will give you an example. Recently, there's a lot of hoo-ha about the three parent baby, and I have spent 2 3 days just reading about different debates and different arguments about this, and it's a very, very interesting conversation because people. Let's not get into that. But yeah, you what they do encourage is that you read and you study every single day. You read something related to your academics. A lot of the times, our professors, randomly you're having dinner and they send you a research paper on the group, and WhatsApp pay, people just read it quickly, glance through it, look at a couple figures, and then there's some conversation that happens. So that is, as I said, it's a very immersive experience. And besides this, every single day of the week, is assigned for a particular session in the morning. So from around 8:30 to 9:30, 10, we have journal club, we have seminars, we have um, students are doing their PhD thesis, because, as I said, they have a very, very cutting edge, state of the art laboratory here. So they have scholars, they have people who are employed for diagnostic services. All of them have their updates to share. And yeah, there's just a whole lot, and there's also case presentations. How can I forget that? And then we also have OPD presentations. So that is not academic, that is more of an admin work, but you get to see the whole month in 2 hours. So like all the disorders that were seen in a month. And yeah, that's those are a lot of the pros um, of this university, and that's how I came to my decision of joining here.
I must say it's like a very detailed study about what you want to do, and kudos to you on doing that. And the slide really gave insights on different universities with pros and cons, which were for you. So yes, I think that this is very inspiring, and also to listen this mantra which I think Kasturba Medical College has, that you read every day. And I think there couldn't be any better mantra for genetics at this point, because every day there is something or the other coming up, some new gene, like you said, the three baby thing. I swear, every time you open LinkedIn, there is some person who might have shared this, and there is some insight that is very unique. It becomes interesting. So yes, it is very commendable that you did so much study and you finally came to Kasturba. And as you're mentioning and you're describing it, it seems like you wanted this and you got it. So, um, so having said that, like now you're there in Manipal, you're seeing patients, you're getting trained, and you had an experience of working in Indian scenario, which was in Kamineni, and now you're here. So, how does a day look like for a student, Indian genetic counseling student, on different days? Maybe when they are in a clinic, when they're shadowing somebody, or when they're sitting in classes, theory, they are reading something, or when they are on their clinical rotations. How does a day look like for them these different days?
Okay. Uh, all right. So, number one, let's go with the day that you are in the OPD. As I said, in this particular university where I'm studying, I will give you a very specific, that's university specific to this. Um, we have morning sessions. So we do, that's brilliant actually. The first thing that you do in the morning is learn. Um, to confess, yes, sometimes you're just groggy and sleepy. But I think, just to be in class and things just keep hitting you, you learn something in the morning. And I think that's a really good way to enhance your mind power, because I think next year when we become second year students and when we're going to get out of the university and study, this is something that we will carry forward with us. I think anywhere that I go to work, I will require this morning mental stimulation to go ahead with my day. So once this morning session happens, um, we straight away, anybody who has duty in the OPD, you go straight to the OPD. There may be cases lined up already, so start working on them. As you know, there are initial there the couple of steps that are involved in a genetic counseling session. To brief are, first of all, introduce yourself, who you are, um, how they can address you, how the client can address you, and then explain them a little about genetics and genetic counseling. Ask them what they know about genetics or genetic counseling, and understand if they have a reason of as to why they have been referred to genetics. Sometimes people don't know, and they are just sent by doctors to genetics OPD. So try to get an understanding where they stand, and once you know their status, you can build on that. And then you explain to them that you're going to take a detailed family history, because making the pedigree, which is the family history, is going to take some time. So let them know that this is going to take a bit of a time. And start with the pedigree. Now, the challenge with the pedigree is that you are driving the session, so have good enough practice that you're able to drive the session confidently. And you should know what your next question is. Once you make the family history, you get a little bit of an idea if this can be genetic or not genetic. And then you go in order of taking their history, um, like their birth history, development history, depending on who the individual is. And then the history of their illness, um, and then any investigations that are there, then you move on to examinations and things like that. So after that, with each patient having done this, then we go to the senior consultant. They are the ones who look at the patient, they are the ones who actually do the counseling as well. Um, and then, depending upon their situation, a test is either provided, or they are called for review, or they are sent for further testing, such as x-rays, any blood work that is required, things like that. So that is generally what happens with each patient. And a very important thing, because genetic counseling is non-directive, at the end of the day, it is the patient's decision if they want to go ahead with testing or not. And that is what this is entirely, in a brief way, what happens with every patient that comes to genetics. So it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and most importantly, it keeps you on your toes, and you have to keep using your mind. um yeah, it's not just, giving them any medication prescription that is routine, because, like, for example, the medication for fever will not change, but the genetic testing that you offer changes to every single family. And the family dynamic, the family mindset, the prejudices that the family comes with, the concerns that the family comes with, they're all very varying and it's a wide spectrum. So you need to identify those, you need to address those, you need to choose if you want to address those even or not. So there's a lot of thinking and a lot of brain work that has to be put into for every single patient. And yeah, so OPD duty happens from about 10 o'clock to 4 p.m. in the evening, with a lunch break in between, of course. And then from 4 to 5, there are classes that happen, lectures. Now, these are classes which are incorporated in our curriculum. This is what we will be tested on in our examinations. And at 5 o'clock, then you just go back, close the OPD, say bye for the day, come back to our room, and then study. You have to read some article, or you have to read what was done in class, or even just go through the patients that you had seen today. And that's how an OPD day goes. To coming to the second part, which is um, a day when you don't have OPD. Very similar. You start in the morning with a session. During the day, there's lots of work that we have. As I said, that there's academic work where you make notes and things like that for your exams. Number one. Number two, you have case summaries which are to be written. So all the patients that you have seen, and the counseling that they have been given, if they have been given any report, like the results have come, all of that is put into one single case summary. And if the patient wishes, we can give it to them as well. But this is part of our coursework evaluation as well. So in our last semester, we would have to submit these case summaries. That is number two. Number three, we have seminars that we conduct. There are case presentations. There's a bit of admin work as well. And there are patient presentations that we make. So a whole lot of these things, the effort goes into justifying all of those during non-OPD days. And what was the third one you had asked? I'm forgetting the third one.
The classes, the clinical rotation part, and also the internship.
Yeah.
Right. So, clinical rotation, I think it's a bit voluntary. If you want to do rotations, you can do that. We haven't seen anyone yet, but I would like to believe that you just, as I said, you attend the morning classes, you attend the evening classes, and in the time that you have in between, you go for your rotations. And I think it's a very, very free, like people are very welcoming in most hospitals. Although there's a lot of hurry burry that's involved, it's very difficult to teach while also catering to a patient. But yeah, most specialties will give you a brief of the sort of equipment they use, the sort of tests they do, and a basic understanding of how the tests are done and things like that. So these are 3 days that you asked.
Thank you so much for giving such a detailed answer. It does sound interesting, and like you said, um, as a student, you have found your own pattern that where you fit in. Like you, when do you want that mental stimulation? How do you want to plan out your day? Seeing patients and learning from that. It really sounds interesting, and it really talks that uh, sounds like a very wholesome course at Manipal. Like you get to see patients, you get to have theoretic classes, and then you are also left alone for some self study to reflect back, to take it all in, and to like process it, whatever has happened. Coming to that part of processing the whole process, like you said, you get some mental stimulation in the morning, you go to the OPD, you apply what you have learned theoretically, maybe. And when you're dealing with people, like you mentioned few of the things, you have to tell them what you do, taking in history. You come across a lot of biases, you come across a lot of things that you you cannot be prepared for that in a theory class. You might know it by definition, or you know that okay, you have empathetic, but that could be a lot of what is it, can be taxing, it can be kind of tolling on your mental health also as a student or as an individual. So how do you deal with the difficult days when you have such a some seen broken a bad news, or you've seen a difficult case? So how do you deal with those days?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. Firstly, I think I'm yet to reach in that position of power where, I am more accountable for my patients. As of now, I am under supervision, I am under an authority. So that gives me space to make mistakes at times as well and learn from them. But how I deal with these days, I think when you get into the routine of things, when you're studying these things, a lot of things become matter of factly. Like, the way we throw around the word abortion, or the way we discuss about certain early deaths in the family and things like that, it becomes very casual. And it might sometimes push you to the point of indifference. But I think that is where the difference comes between being just, um, a healthcare professional and a genetic counselor, because we are very well aware that these things that patients come with, their own emotional baggage, can have an impact on us. Because of that awareness, I think we're already taking like preventative measures, that this is where we draw the line. Any decision that the patient takes, they are taking for themselves, especially because these decisions in genetic making are life changing. They impact their day to day life. The decisions impact their long term life as well. Their decision impact multiple family members. So um, at the end of the day, I think it is, if I have broken a difficult news, or if I have seen a family cry, if I have understood that the family has no funds to undergo a test that will help them a lot, um, I think it is this awareness to know that you did your best to help them. And yeah, after a point, I mean, put in all the efforts, try as hard enough to help them, get them in touch with people who can support them, any funding sources, anything else that will bring them comfort. But if it does not, it is not on you. And once they have had some time with the news or some time with the information that has been given to them, they will realize that you played an important role. I always say this to myself and to my peers and my colleagues as well, that, for us, we see a lot of patients every single day. But for those patients, they will always remember you as their genetic counselor only. So, you play a very, very important role in how they see their own illness, how they see the magnanimity of the decision that they have to make. And I think that's how I deal with it. It's not to be indifferent. It is to be supportive. It is to be putting in all your efforts, and I think that is the beauty of this field.
Thank you for sharing that. It sounds, I would say, it sounds very profound, and I think you're, like you said, you're yet to reach that stage where you start being accountable completely, and you're learning. So one can really see that you're shaping things up for you and how it will look for you. So great, all the best for you for that thing. Um, so to coming, so I think we have spoken a lot about the colleges and the course and how it will look like for you when you get into the field of genetic counseling. So to ask you, where do you see yourself maybe 5 years down the line, and how do you see field around you growing?
Okay. Uh, I think I would like to refer to the answer as to why I came back to India. Um, the main point being that, you treat Indian patients, you help in research, in data validation, in data gathering, especially. And there's so much scope to expand policies as well in healthcare, encourage health equity, because I'll give you a very simple example. A couple days back, there was a child in our infant, I would say, but for the benefit of this conversation, I let's just address this baby. Um, and he had a bit of a loose bladder, so he relieved himself twice on our examination bed. And at the end of it, we were all just like, you're coming to a hospital, you can put on a diaper, that's okay. But it was very soon that we realized that the family could not afford diapers. It was too much for them. And that simple event, I had such a change in my mindset. So, these are certain things that make me question how people will even understand and become aware of genetic counseling. My own parents are so confused. Sometimes they ask that, what is it that you do? How do you help? Do you only help in giving them a diagnosis? And if you do give them a diagnosis, then there's no treatment for genetic disorders. How do you help in that? But to that, I answer that at least you get a definitive diagnosis. At least you understand the natural course of this disorder. And that is what I want to achieve going henceforth. So, if you are asking my 5 year plan, I would say that I see myself working in a hospital setting, which is one of the most ideal situations, although highly rare and uncommon. It is my plan to have my own clinic if possible. It is my plan to have an NGO, and a funding organization as well, if I can start one. And it is, um, yes, I want to improve my research skills for the benefit of the society and myself also. But yeah, there's just so much impact that research has as well, especially, as I said, data validation and data creation, for that matter as well. So, for both these things, I would want to pursue a PhD. Just, if you can get through a PhD, you can get through anything in life. So that's another benefit, and there are a whole lot of pros to doing a PhD. Like you become an expert in that narrow field of yours. So yeah, these are a few of my 5 year plans, and of course, with that comes with learning more languages, traveling more, um, studying more, uh, and yeah, I'm sure I'm missing a few things. Being more creative, like indulging into art and things like that. So all of this is how I see myself in 5 years.
That's such an balanced plan
Hmm.
you have there. I would call it balanced because yes, and I'm pretty sure that plan you said about learning languages. Yes, in India, you learn more languages. You're going to have like a very nice group of patients to deal with.
Yeah.
The more languages you know, the more different like patient group you can see. So yes, and it sounds really fascinating, and your journey is really inspiring. So I'm sure people will have a lot of good parts to take back, a lot of good parts to relate with, and I hope they find answers to their questions. And I hope you really get good space and good mental space, physical health space also to work on your 5 year plan. It sounds very interesting, and we are really interested to see what all wonderful things you do in the future, and also while you are pursuing this course. So towards to wrap it up, we'll ask you one final question from our end. That would be, what will be your advice for prospective students who might want to get into this field? And what are some of the things that you would like to tell them that, okay, we know there are certain basic things that we need to look into when we are choosing a career. But when you're choosing a career like genetic counseling, what are certain things that you need to consider more than the usual things?
Hmm. Okay. Uh, I have already started forming the answer in my mind, so I would have to ask you to repeat the first part of your question.
What would be your advice for prospective students?
Okay. I will answer that. Then you repeat the second part, then I will answer that.
Yes.
So, for the first part of the question, which is advice to prospective students, this is coming from a student herself. I am in no way much larger. So, number one, masters is a very difficult thing to go through in your life. I don't think it is respected enough in India, or it is acknowledged enough in India that masters is difficult. But especially in this field, when you are being compared to doctors. So I don't think I mentioned this before, but there is a DM course, which is the PhD equivalent for doctors. So people do their masters, people do their MBBS, then masters, then this is the PhD equivalent, which is DM in medical genetics, and they become clinical geneticists going further. So they are the ones who give a provisional diagnosis. They are the ones who estimate what diagnosis it could be, and take the help of genetic counselors to advise which test has to be given exactly. And genetic counselors play a lot more role in, as I said, of course, supporting and counseling the family. And then there's also the whole lot of research that goes into it, which is analyzing the test report. Making the test report is what I'm trying to say. You analyze the data of the genes and things like that. So that is the genetic counselor's job. But coming back to my point, it is that um, come when you begin to apply for this field, masters is difficult. Don't forget that, because as I said, you're being compared to these DM students who have had multiple years of experience in the medicine field. So yes, push yourself to study more every single day, but also don't forget that they have their role to play and you have your role to play. um, Number two, as I said, yeah, study a lot, study very very hard. Number three, keep your eyes open for opportunities. and and ask for help wherever you think is necessary. So if you feel that, interviewing a particular person will help you, or reaching out to a colleague will help you, then always do that. If you want to apply for any internship, if you want to do a project while doing genetic counseling, go for it, because all of these, genetic counseling is very, very vast. So the moment you limit yourself only to patients and only to, clinical disorders and counseling techniques, you're going to pull down the limit of your sky. It's extremely vast, and you know how the saying goes that if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So just always ask for help from your faculty members, from other doctors, from students who are doing their DM, from students who are doing genetic counseling, practicing counseling and also studying counseling. And finally, do a lot of volunteer work, because that sort of work, there is no way that it's not going to cultivate compassion and empathy and just motivation to help others and make people smile. So yeah, that these are three, four, I did not count how many points of advice. But then also write a lot. Fifth point, I think. Um, uh, Write, if you're writing, then you can even write for yourself. You can write for a magazine. You can um, just write for anybody. You can write your own blog. Um, and why it is important to write is because the moment you start writing, you put a lot of thought in the way you are writing and things like that. After a period of time, this thinking process converts into when you are doing this verbally as well. So you become a better communicator. And being a communicator in this field is very essential. You talk to patients, and if you don't know what you have to say to them, the patient will know, and there will be a discord between the trust that they have on you. They're not going to trust you. So yes, write a lot, become a better communicator, and number three, also read a lot. Yes, there is studying, but if it is novels and things like that, that's also going to make you a better communicator. So indulge, indulge in this. And the second part of your question was, please tell me the question. I'll just pull out my laptop's charger.
Yes. You really gave an interesting insight, I think, advice to our students, and I couldn't agree more that yes, writing does help, and thank you for sharing that. The second part of question was there are a lot of basic things that we all go through while deciding on a career or taking a career. Like for example, the motivation for this question would be a lot of times we, as genetic counselors or practicing genetic counselors, get a question that, oh, is genetic counselor good paying field? Do you get to work in hospital? Is it all good? So so that is one part of this job and one part of every job search or every academic degree ever. But what are some of the things that you should go beyond, or what are some of the reasons that you should go beyond these questions when you're thinking about pursuing genetic counseling, so that you know that yes, this is the right fit for me, and this is not just fit for me because it fits my basic criteria.
Hmm. I think this is one of the most tough questions of the evening. Mm, uh, yes, as you said, a lot of people question about the salary. And I think going henceforth, um, the salary is good. The starting salary is good. When you had a typical 5 year experience, the salary is good. The problem is when you've had 10 years of experience, the growth scale of this salary is the issue. So we as genetic counselors need to work very hard in the next few years to make this field more prominent, to make it more integrated with healthcare, so that we're not working as individuals but as a multidisciplinary team associated with other people. But I think what can be considered is how much you can also contribute to research. As I said, this is a field that requires a lot of data from India, and we rely way too much on Caucasian data. So, if that is something that you want to keep your door open to, courses will help you with that as well. And as genetic counselors, there's also a whole lot of scope in treatment as well. Very, very common disorders like spinal muscular atrophy or Duchenne muscular dystrophy, these now have uh, highly expensive, complicated treatments. But at the end of the day, they at least have treatments. So, if you put in your life's work into researching and developing a cure or a treatment, that will definitely change the face of genetics, because genetic counselors oftentimes are left with less than few words to say to patients, that you have a positive report but there's no treatment. So how you can help solve that, I think that is one thing that you can consider as well. Besides that, there's a lot of there's a dearth of genetic counselors who are professors. I think, as I said, it's in a very nascent field. So students who have taken up this field in India are very young, and without PhD in India, you don't become a professor. So I think a few years until when we start getting professors who are genetic counselors, but that is one thing that you can consider as well. And other than that, you can also become a science communicator. So, as a genetic counselor, there are a lot of people who have multiple family members affected, but do not know that they can seek care in such a way that can help not only one or two individuals, but many individuals in the family and the future generations that are to come. So, writing for the paper and magazines, things like that, I think science communicators should actually become a very important profile of genetic counselors. So, yeah, I hope this answers your question. I'm not quite sure if I was in even if I was in the ballpark, I would be happy.
Yes, I think it does answer the question, like why should see genetic counseling beyond it, and what all roles and what all hats we wear on different occasions. It's a very dynamic and it's a very vibrant field, according to me. And and you couldn't have put it in better words, that we are many things at once, but at the core, we are patient educators, people who stand up for patients, and yeah, we are kind of the advocates and also people who want to bring in awareness. Uh, with that, I thank you, Khyati, for being here today and sharing your valuable insights with us. It was quite, what do you say? It felt like I'm listening to somebody say what I think I wanted to listen when I was thinking of pursuing genetic counseling, what advice I would have needed or what guidance maybe I would have needed. So thank you for putting those thoughts in words. And I'm sure if people come across this interview, they will find some answers or some takeaways. So thank you for sharing them. I'm sure people will find it interesting. And now we'll open the forum for audience here to ask questions if they have any.
Thank you so much, Mayuresh, and thank you so much, Shraddha, for being such a patient listener. And Soham and Koheli as well to stay through the entire session. Actually, Aditi and Yashvi here are students from KMC Manipal, and they're kind enough to have joined today.
Thank you for
So,
joining, guys.
yeah, I think if Soham is already a practicing genetic counselor, so he can answer questions
Hello,
better. Hi, Ashvi.
thank you, Khyati. Yeah, Thank you. I am sure this, like as Mayuresh said, we all agree that this is what we wanted to hear when we were, searching for this field. So you gave all the correct information, I think.
Thank you. I feel the same. I feel that this is something that I would want to hear when I was uh, choosing as well, and even way back when I was in my bachelor's, I would have want to, get this list that these are the courses, these are the pros and cons, and this is why you can do this in India, and it's such a rapidly, you know, it's becoming very famous to become a genetic counselor. It's just that people don't know much about it.
Yes, we completely agree with you.
Yeah, I think. Thank you so much, Mayuresh,
Yes.
for inviting me and facilitating this brilliantly. I enjoyed listening to your views and your agreement as well. It was validation for me.
Thank you so much. So kind of you to accept our invite, and we are sure that we would be seeing you again as a participant, and also in the future as a presenter, or we'll give one more topic, and so you can come and talk to our audience. It was great listening to you. I am sure you will have, after 1 year, like we say about VUS, come after 1 year, we'll have a follow up and see what all data you have. But yeah, we'll have you again, and uh, hopefully you'll have some other new stories to share with, the new things to share with us. But for now, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure this will help people and serve the purpose why we had this segment started. So thank you for adding to the segment, and thank you all for joining today on a Saturday evening. And sure, we'll be putting out the link soon on our YouTube channel for people to go through it who were unable to join it. uh, Other than that, thank you guys, have a nice weekend, and good night.
Thank you so
Good
much.
night.
Good night. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being here on Saturday evening. There's no other way I would like to spend.